Hello and welcome back. I'm Barbara O'Neill, and today we're going to talk about exercise with a difference. If you're tired of the same old workout routines and looking for something new and exciting, you're in the right place. Exercise doesn't have to be monotonous. There are many innovative and enjoyable ways to stay active and improve your fitness. In this lecture, we'll explore unique exercise methods that not only keep you motivated, but also offer a variety of health benefits. So stay tuned as we dive into creative and effective ways to make your exercise routine more fun.
God designed this living machinery to be in daily activity, and in that activity is its preserving power. So what's a preservative? Something that stops you going bad or off. And I find that when I meet people in their latter years of life who are in good working order, it's because they're active. And you might have heard of the Blue Zone. National Geographic looked at groups of people who commonly live till a very long life. In fact, they even eventually wrote a book called The Blue Zone. And the three main people that they looked at was the Okinawans, which is a Japanese group. I think it's an island, and they commonly live to their into their hundreds. But it's not just long life, it's quality of life. These people are still active, even when they're 100. They also looked at the Sardinians, which is an Italian group, and they also live long lives and quality of lives. But also in Lehman University, they looked at a group of Seventh-day Adventists who also live long lives and quality of life. Now, there were three common denominators with these three groups of people. One was they're very social. Another was that they eat food in its natural state. Some of them eat meat, but if they do eat meat, it's a very small part of the diet, and it's usually healthy meat in a natural environment. But the third common denominator was they're very active. In fact, the journalist was trying to keep up with one Sardinian man who was climbing up this big mountain to check his goats, and this guy was about 90, and the journalist could hardly keep up with him. So, always active. The body must move. Strength comes by exercise. There's no other way. And stagnant pools breed disease, stagnant bodies breed disease. You gotta move. Now, there is a type of exercise that the exercise physiologists today are claiming is the most powerful form of exercise. It's the high-intensity interval training. So, as the name implies, this high-intensity interval training are intervals of high intensity. So let's define high intensity. So high intensity is anything that gets the heart rate up and get you breathing deeply. So my husband and I, we live in a fairly hilly area. We're up in the mountains. So in our morning exercise, we run up hills. Now, not everyone can run. So if you can't run, try an exercise bike. In fact, most of the research that's been done on the high intensity interval training has been done on an exercise bike, because you're holding on, especially if you're a little unstable, and you can go really, really fast, and then recovery time is going a little slower. In fact, recovery time is usually going a lot slower. So high intensity is running as hard as, or cycling as hard as fast, or swimming, or push-ups, or if you have those little trampolines, jumping really high, or jogging on the rebounder. It's got to be high intensity. And the research is showing that 30 seconds high intensity is a good amount. Now, you might think 30 seconds isn't very long. Try it. Try running as hard as you can up a hill for 30 seconds. Now, when I first read of this, I was so impressed, I started to try it. When I get to 20 seconds, my body says, that'll do. When I get to 25 seconds, my body says, this is ridiculous. When I get to 30 seconds, I feel like I'm dying. That's what you've got to get to. This is no gentle stroll. It's like anything in life. The more you put into it, the more you will get out of it. Well, what's recovery time? The research is showing that the best recovery time is not just standing still, but it's actually moving a bit. Often with recovery, I'm just doing some stretches, maybe stretching legs. I haven't got the skirt on today that allows me to squat or do the good leg stretches. I don't wear this skirt on my morning walk. Very important that you have comfortable clothes and very, very warm clothes, but not too warm because you're going to get warm. Someone said to me, when I asked them if they exercise, they said, oh, it got too cold. I said, no, it's the best time. Because your body is going to get very, very warm. In fact, the best way to warm the body is move the body. That's the way God meant for our bodies to get warm, is to move.
To maximise the benefits of high-intensity interval training, it's essential to incorporate a variety of exercises that challenge different muscle groups. This diversity not only helps prevent boredom, but also ensures that multiple areas of the body receive a comprehensive workout. For instance, combining activities like sprinting, cycling, and bodyweight exercises, such as burpees or lunges, can be effective. Each type of exercise targets different aspects of fitness, including cardiovascular endurance, muscle strength, and flexibility. Additionally, proper form and technique during these exercises are crucial to prevent injuries and maximize efficiency. Investing time in learning correct movements or consulting a fitness professional can be beneficial. Also, consider integrating flexibility and mobility exercises into your routine. Stretching or yoga can help improve range of motion and reduce the risk of injury, especially after intense workouts.
And age has got nothing to do with this. Did everyone get that? Age has got nothing to do with this, because muscle knows no age. So whether you're 9 or 90, you can have strong muscles. I fly a lot. Last time I was on the plane to America, I went into documentaries and I found a documentary of 90-year-old athletes. 90-year-old athletes. Wow, you should have seen these guys. And some ladies. They're fit. This high-intensity interval training is usually done for a cycle of 6. So does that come to? What's that, 12, 30 minutes? That's not long, is it? It's actually not long at all. Michael and I used to do a half-hour walk every day, 2 kilometres. We don't anymore. It's come down really, really short, which I'm so glad, because I've got a lot of stuff to do in the day. So I do the high-intensity interval training. I only have to leave myself 15 minutes. I run. Now let me just comment on running for a minute. It's very important when you run to not run on the cement or the tar. You've got to run on the earth, because that will give you a bit of give. And if you notice how children run, they always run on their toes. You see, our feet have been designed for us to run on our toes, but some jogger brands, in fact most of them, have you noticed what they've done? They've padded the heel to encourage heel striking. There's a book called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall, and he was a runner, used to get lower back problems a lot, hamstring problems, and he decided to take a few months to investigate running. And he went all over the world investigating different runners, and he found some barefoot runners. In 1960 and in 1964, Abibi Bikila, has anyone here heard of Abibi Bikila? Abibi Bikila won gold in the Olympic Games. He's an African, but he's a barefoot runner. Nike and Reebok hate him. He was a barefoot runner. Now, I think those feet must have been pretty tough. But Christopher McDougall, he actually searches out and he finds a few barefoot runners. And when you run barefoot, you always hit with your toes, always hit with your toes. Now, after that book was printed, then came the barefoot running craze. Now, you know today you can even go into a shop and pay $200 still for a pair of joggers that are barefoot joggers. Have you seen that? When you buy joggers today, you should be able to press them up against each other. So you want the thin-soled joggers. So when I read this book, I went straight to the shop and bought some thin-soled joggers. I thought they'd be a bit cheaper, but they're not. And I love them because it's almost like you've got nothing on your feet, you spring along. But as I started to do my running in my barefoot joggers, well, they're not barefoot joggers, but thin-soled joggers, oh, my legs and my glutes, all my muscles so sore. I had sore muscles for a whole week. What does that tell you? You're using totally different muscles when you run by your toe strike compared with your heel strike. And if you go barefoot on grass and do a run, you will never run on your heel. Your body will not let you run on your heel. In fact, running on your heel striking, jars your lower back, jars your pelvis, jars your knee and your ankle joints, and also overstretches your hamstring. And that's where you have trouble. So if you're a runner, go to your toe striking. And you've probably seen, you can even buy joggers now with toes. Have you seen those? They're really soft. I said to one lady, I said, yeah, but how do you wear socks? She said, well, you buy socks with toes. You can even buy socks that have got the toes in them. So I don't quite go to that. But what you want to look for, if you're a jogger, you want to go for your thin-soled joggers. And if you do jog, it must always be on the earth. Because so many people who are runners find that by the time they're in their 50s, they're starting to have lower back, hip, knee, ankle because of the constant jarring. So be very mindful of that.
If you're considering switching to barefoot or thin-soled joggers, remember to transition gradually. Your feet and legs need time to adjust to the new impact and stress. Start with shorter runs and increase the distance slowly to avoid overuse injuries. Pay attention to how your body responds and make adjustments as needed. Additionally, integrating strength training exercises for your feet and lower legs can help build the necessary strength and flexibility for running with a more natural stride. Exercises like toe raises, foot rolls, and calf stretches can be beneficial. Also, consider varying your running surfaces. Running on grass or dirt trails can provide a more forgiving surface compared to hard pavements, reducing the risk of injury. Always listen to your body and consult with a professional if you experience persistent pain or discomfort. This approach will help you enjoy a safer and more effective running experience.
So we're going to go inside the cell and have a look at what exercise does. We've already gone inside the cell a few times this week. The CBD, Central Business District of the human body, the glucose goes in and it goes through a 20-step pathway. And the end result of the 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose called pyruvate. This 20-step pathway delivers to us 2 units of energy. Isn't that why we eat? We eat to get glucose that gets burnt in the cell to give us energy. Now, the chemical form of glucose, it gets fed into another area, and it's called the powerhouse, because this 8-step pathway gives us a very impressive 36 units of energy. So what makes the difference? It's oxygen. So this is what's called an aerobic pathway because it uses oxygen. This pathway is called anaerobic. It's called anaerobic because it doesn't use oxygen. So this pathway produces energy by the process of fermentation, whereas this pathway produces energy because of the presence of oxygen. What a difference oxygen makes. By the way, students, how are you going to feel if every single one of your 100 trillion cells has got enough oxygen to get down to there? we're not going to be able to hold you down. You're going to have so much energy. Have you seen the kids running back into the house after they're riding up and down the paths a few times? Energy. You want that energy? What have you got to do? You've got to get out on the bike. You've got to go up and down with that. I also showed you how that when we don't burn all our fuel, the body stores some as glycogen. Glycogen's a name given to quick-release glucose stores. We looked at it earlier. So the glucose, when we eat it, number one, it's sent to the cell. Some of it is stored as glycogen. That's your quick-release glucose stores. And when we looked at diabetes, we showed how that's a very important backup of fuel. But on a high carbohydrate diet, many people have still got glucose left over, and so now it gets stored as fat. So let's draw our fat cells. Here they are here, getting bigger and bigger on the high carbohydrate diet. Most people don't realise that wheat and sugar gets stored as fat. Now what I want to show you is what's happening in there when you're doing this high intensity interval training. So we're getting to the end of our first set of high intensity, the first set of 30 seconds. 20-step pathway speeds up, no wonder. 8-step pathway speeds up. But this 20-step pathway is very fast. And this 8-step pathway is slower. So when your 20-step speeds up and your 8-step speeds up, actually a problem starts to arise. As you're sitting here right now, they actually feed quite nicely into each other. But when you start moving, when you start running up a hill, and both these pathways speed up, because of how fast this one's going, and there's a rate-setting enzyme in there keeping this one slower, we're making more pyruvate than can be fed into the 8-step. And so now the body stores it as lactic acid. You've heard of lactic acid? Now I've got some exciting news. I think this is the most exciting part of this presentation. In recovery time, what's recovery time? In recovery time, your liver converts that lactic acid back to pyruvate and feeds it into the powerhouse. So when you're in recovery time, just resting a little bit, you're burning just as much fuel as when you're running for your life. Isn't that good news? But there's more. So when you're in recovery time, that's when you stop and you're looking at the view, is that right? When you're climbing a mountain, it's a good idea to stop and look at the view a bit, isn't it? When you're stopping and looking at the view, you're burning just as much fuel as when you're climbing hard. So that's good news, but something else is happening. Your lactic acid is being mopped up. Every recovery time, you're mopping up excess lactic acid. And if you don't mop up the excess lactic acid, what happens to the lactic acid? Builds up. Ooh, that hurts. And when you've got a lot of lactic acid building up in the tissues, in the cells, that's creating an acid environment. And yesterday, when we looked at the acid-alkaline balance, actually it was only half an hour ago, when we looked at the acid-alkaline balance, where does disease grow? In the acid environment. Let's move on. We're actually getting to our second and third set of high intensity, and the glycogen stores are being plucked. Remember, they're quick-release glucose stores. When you need them, they just get plucked, fed through the pathways, plucked, fed through the pathways.
During high-intensity interval training, the glycogen stores are crucial for quick energy. As you push through each set, the body rapidly draws on these stores to maintain performance. This process involves the conversion of glycogen back into glucose, which is then used to fuel the ongoing energy demands of your muscles. As you deplete these glycogen reserves, your body starts to rely more on fat stores for energy. This shift is part of the body's natural adaptation to sustained exercise, helping improve endurance over time. However, it's important to note that the transition from burning glycogen to burning fat isn't instantaneous. It takes a while for the body to adjust, and this is where proper nutrition and recovery become essential. After intense workouts, replenishing glycogen stores with carbohydrates is vital. Consuming a balanced meal or snack with both carbs and protein can help restore these stores and repair muscle tissues. Hydration also plays a key role in recovery, as fluids are necessary for optimal metabolic function and to assist in the removal of metabolic waste products.
But there is a form of exercise that is probably the most accessible no matter who you are and no matter what age you are, and that is rebounding. Rebounding is a little mini trampoline. Now, Albert Carter, he wrote a book on rebounding. I think he wrote his book in about the 80s or 90s. You see, he was an Olympian trampolinist. And he married and had a couple of little children, and they would do a trampoline show. They would go from town to town doing all these tricks on the trampoline. And he noticed that his little 4-year-old girl, he could hold her feet, her ankles, and she could do one-arm push-ups. Have you ever tried one-arm push-ups? Even a 4-year-old finds that very hard. And his little boy was 7, and he would challenge kids at school. He'd do 1,000 push-ups. And he scratched his head and he thought, why are my kids so strong? I don't know if he ever looked in the mirror, but he was built like this. No weight building, just trampolining. So he began to investigate, why was this form of exercise so powerful? And he found it very hard to get any documentation on this until he came to NASA. And NASA discovered that the trampolining or the rebounding was the only form of exercise that increased the G-force of their astronauts to be able to handle going out of space. And what NASA found was when their astronauts got back from out of space, they had lost 25% muscle strength and also bone strength. And what rebounding did, it reduced that loss because in outer space there's no gravity. And rebounding defies gravity more than any other form of exercise because you're constantly going up against gravity. So what NASA found, that this was the only form of exercise that prepared their astronauts for no gravity, and it was the only form of exercise that returned their fitness quickly, which is what they needed. But Albert Carter, he was even more intrigued as to why. Why was this such a powerful form of exercise? And this is what he found. He found it's the only exercise that defies gravity. Well, most exercise defies gravity, but no exercise defies gravity the way this does. So number one, he called them the 3 teachers. Defies gravity. And he found that Einstein acknowledged this, that these 2 other teachers, the body doesn't know the difference between them and defying gravity. And one is acceleration. See, when you're on the rebounder and you're jumping up, you're accelerating. And when you get to the peak of your jump, acceleration stops and you get deceleration. And then as you go down, you're accelerating again. Then when you hit the mat, deceleration, then up again. So you're constantly doing acceleration and deceleration at the same time as you're defying gravity. So these 3 forces come together and explains why it's such a powerful form of exercise.
Thanks for tuning in and exploring Exercise with a Difference with me today. I hope you're excited to try some of these unique workout ideas and make your fitness journey more enjoyable. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who might benefit. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content. Stay active, stay motivated, and I'll see you in the next video.